Nothing is by chance. If this video found you, it's because your soul is already ready. But maybe you don't know that yet. There's a hidden method within creation itself, a force that the ancients used to call the sacred word. And it's still operating right now through everything you feel, think, and say. We're not talking about positive phrases, not about repeating memorized mantras. We're talking about a living, creative energy that turns vibration into reality, and you're using it all the time, even without knowing. But what happens when you learn to activate that force with intention? When your word stops being just noise and becomes pure alchemy? In this video, you'll understand why only those who are truly ready are able to access this method, and why the word doesn't fail. It only waits for you to be awake enough to create consciously. Stay with me until the end, because what's about to be revealed might change the way you speak, think, vibrate, and manifest everything. Words are, in my not-so-humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. You were created in the image of the Word, not as a symbolic figure, but as a living extension of the very creative vibration. Since the first breath, since the first beat of your heart, something inside you carries this divine inheritance. And even so, almost no one remembers it. The world we were born into didn't celebrate this gift. On the contrary, it taught us to doubt it. Since childhood, we've been exposed to a bunch of external voices: parents, teachers, religious figures, TV shows, neighbors, friends, systems. Voices that kept repeating that we're weak, guilty, sinful, not enough. Little by little, we started shaping ourselves to fit into what was expected of us. We copied patterns, mimicked emotions, took on fears that weren't even ours, and without realizing it, we forgot who we were before we learned to obey. If you'd been born in another culture, you'd probably believe in different truths. You'd have different fears, different images of God. Maybe you'd worship fire, rivers, the sun. Maybe you'd meditate since you were little, or see yourself as part of the whole. But you grew up where you did, and because of that, you inherited a reality full of guilt, blind obedience, and fear of your own light. Not out of malice, but because everyone around you was also copying realities they didn't create. It was the only way they knew. When they told you that you were a sinner, what they were doing was way deeper than it seems. They were cutting off your connection to the Word. Because someone who believes they were born wrong will never dare to speak like a creator. Someone who thinks they carry guilt, fear, or inadequacy can't use their words with faith. The word withdraws when the soul is ashamed of itself. And that's when disconnection sets in. The word that should flow naturally starts to come out as self-criticism, judgment, complaints, whining. Words become reflections of fear. And fear, once it's embedded in language, becomes a vibrational pattern. That's why so many people feel blocked, because they keep verbalizing everything that holds them back. These beliefs aren't just ideas. They're codes that were installed in you without your consent. They dictate what you believe you deserve, what you think is possible, how far you'll go. And the scariest part is they hide in the smallest things, in the way you apologize for existing, in the fear of shining too bright, in the habit of shrinking yourself so you don't bother others. If you grew up believing that talking about yourself is ego, that wanting more is a sin, that trusting your own intuition is pride, then your connection with the creative word was blocked from early on. Not because it stopped existing, but because you were convinced that you weren't worthy of using it. And that's one of the quietest forms of spiritual imprisonment. The good news is that the word was never lost. It just went quiet, waiting for the right moment to be remembered. But before it can emerge with strength and clarity, you need to identify what's still blocking your expression. And those blocks almost always take the shape of beliefs, inherited beliefs, copied beliefs. Beliefs that, repeated like unconscious mantras, build invisible walls around your power. The code that reveals the secret of the word. And that's where something starts to reveal itself. Because if you were disconnected from the word as a child, programmed to silence what you felt and repeat what you were told, there's a dormant force inside you that was never erased, only silenced. A force that pulses beneath all inherited beliefs, all emotional blocks, and all unconscious fears. And that force is directly connected to a word you know, but never really understood. It's been said thousands of times in movies, magic tricks, and childhood jokes. You heard it, and maybe even repeated it, without knowing you were pronouncing a fragment of one of humanity's oldest vibrational formulas. A word that, contrary to what it seems, was never created to entertain, but to create, to command, to open portals. A word hidden in plain sight. And because of that, almost no one recognizes it. But it's still alive. And it carries one of the lost keys of true spirituality. An ancient code that, before being ridiculed by modern culture, was chanted in temples, in secret rituals, in mystery schools, where the word was understood as sacred technology. This word comes from Aramaic, a root language that predates even biblical Hebrew, and whose structure isn't symbolic, it's vibrational, a living language born from the frequency and geometry of sound. And this code, when pronounced correctly, activates the bridge between thought and matter. It's the crossing between what still exists in higher realms and what you wish to manifest here, now. But this code was hidden, disfigured, because those who understand the power of the word know whoever controls the word controls reality. That's why the knowledge was diluted, replaced with distraction, superficiality, and noise. The word became a trick. The vibration became a show, and the word lost its origin in the mouths that forgot how to speak with the soul. But the initiates always knew. This word wasn't a joke. It was a key, a command, a reminder of what you truly are. And even now, in this exact moment, it's still vibrating between the lines of reality, waiting for you to recognize it, for you to remember. Because this word doesn't act alone. It needs intention. It needs a prepared body. It needs a compatible vibrational field. And when all of that aligns, when heart, mind, and word come into sync, the word becomes a sharp arrow that pierces the invisible planes of existence. It breaks through layers, dissolves blocks, and starts shaping the reality around you. And that word is abracadabra. But before you think it's just a simple expression or something too mystical to apply to real life, understand this. In ancient Aramaic, abracadabra means I create as I speak. And it's not poetry. It's a map, a vibrational password, a reminder that your voice is a creative tool, that every time you open your mouth, you're sending commands to the invisible field. And that the universe, as a living consciousness, responds to the frequency of what you're vibrating as you speak. That's why it was used in rituals, in healing practices, in magical circles, in deep manifestation processes. The ancients chanted abracadabra like someone activating an access code, like someone opening a crack in time, because they knew this word carried within it the oldest code of creation, the word that creates realities. But now you know. Abracadabra was never kids' magic. It's always been spirit magic, and it's still active, still reverberating, still responding, but only for those who dare to speak with an awakened soul. But why exactly did the ancients use this word in moments of spiritual transition? What happened in the body, the mind, and the spirit when it was spoken with pure intention? Because the word, when not supported by an integral vibrational field, loses its creative power and becomes just noise. And that's exactly why the ancients treated the word like a ritual. They knew that sound wasn't just sound. It was a portal, an energetic movement, a key of transition between states of consciousness. You didn't just say any word in any way. There was preparation. There was silence before sound. There was alignment before expression. They didn't use words as mere tools for expression. They used them as instruments of transformation, especially in moments of passage, in rites of death, rebirth, initiation, healing, and crossings between worlds. In those moments, the word became blade and bridge. It cut the old and inaugurated the new, and because of that, it couldn't be used carelessly. When an initiate was guided through a true spiritual school, they didn't begin by speaking. They began by listening, observing, emptying. Because only after the body was cleared of noise, the mind quieted, and the heart centered, could the word be used with real intention. And that's when the word became an act of power. When everything within the being, body, emotion, mind, and soul, vibrated in unison with what was about to be spoken. The ancients knew the word doesn't act alone. It needs the body as a temple, the mind as a channel, and the soul as a source. When someone spoke a code like Abracadabra, for example, they weren't just talking. They were chanting a sequence of sacred sounds whose vibration activated very specific energy layers inside and outside the body. The sound activated energy points. The breath guided the life force. The body's posture anchored presence, and the intention maintained the direction. It was like lighting a torch in the dark. If you're not ready to hold the light, it blinds you. But if you are, it illuminates the next step. These moments of spiritual transition, like rites of passage, healing practices, or deep meditations, were actually points of vibrational reprogramming, and the word was the instrument of tuning. When spoken with truth, it didn't just echo in the air. It reorganized the subtle fields, cleared interferences, and updated the energetic grid of the being. You might have never thought about this, but you felt it. You've heard someone say something so true, so deep, so aligned with the heart, that your skin tingled, your eyes welled up, your body reacted. That's not poetry. That's the word in its pure state. It's sound cutting through invisible layers, touching deep cores, resonating with something inside you that already knew, but had forgotten. That's why the ancients saved certain words for sacred moments, because they knew the word was both instrument and outcome. It was used to transform the outer world, but also to reshape the inner one. Every sound uttered with awareness was a thread cast between who you are and who you choose to become. But what vibrational structure needs to be present for the word to truly become a bridge? And how do you start building this internal state where the word aligns with the reality you wish to create? And the truth is, many people keep talking, praying, affirming, asking, without realizing they haven't yet accessed the inner state required for the word to cross realms and become reality. It's not enough to repeat pretty words if they're coming from a fragmented place. It's not about speech aesthetics. It's about vibrational integrity. And this is where the ancients revealed one of the first laws of the true alchemical method. Be impeccable with the word. But what does it really mean to be impeccable? Most people think it's about perfection, about always saying the right thing, never messing up, never failing. But that's not it. Impeccable comes from without sin, and in the original sense of the word, to sin is to miss the mark, to be out of alignment with your essence, to use the word against your own creation. So being impeccable isn't about being ideal, it's about not sabotaging yourself with your own speech. Every time you complain about life, you reinforce scarcity. Every time you talk down to yourself, even as a joke, you reinforce limitation. Every time you say you can't, that you're not capable, that you've tried everything, you're activating a vibration of defeat that becomes your pattern. The word doesn't get irony. The universe doesn't respond to your mood, but to your frequency. The word is literal. It fulfills what it receives. And if it receives pain, frustration, anger, or fear, that's what it shapes into reality. Constant complaining, for example, works like a repetition spell. Every time you focus on what's wrong, you're re-energizing that scenario with your own word. You're telling the universe, keep me here. Give me more of the same. And it does. Because you gave permission. Because you vibrated from a frequency that doesn't match what you really want. And that's where the real training of the word begins. It's not just about changing the words, it's about changing the field that produces those words. It's about breathing before speaking, about listening to yourself before expressing yourself. It's about owning the fact that there's a space inside you that commands everything that comes out. And if that space is wounded, bitter, or unconscious, no positive phrase will consistently manifest anything. The word needs to come from a whole place. It needs to carry truth. When you say, I am prosperous, with a light heart, a focused mind, and a present body, that phrase isn't just a sound. It's a vibrational code that anchors into the physical plane and starts to reorganize your reality. But if you say it while feeling fear, doubt, or shame, the universe doesn't read the word. It reads the field. And the field is saying, I'm not ready. That's why many speak, but few manifest. Because they keep using the word without awareness. They use their mouth without aligning their heart first. They use learned, copied phrases that haven't been integrated. And the word without soul has no power. It dissolves into the air like smoke that never touches the ground. Being impeccable with the word isn't a moral concept. It's a vibrational practice. It's an internal stance that says, from this point on, I'll only speak what I can stand behind. I'll only affirm what I'm ready to live. I'll only say out loud what my whole field can carry without breaking. But for that to happen, intention alone isn't enough. There's a specific point in the body, an ancestral energy center that needs to be awakened. A portal that, once activated, transforms the word into power. Quintessence. And that exact point in the body, that subtle gateway through which the word gains truth, is not in the throat like many imagine, nor in the mind that rationalizes every sentence. It's lower, deeper, quieter. It's in the energy center that pulses in the middle of the chest, known by many traditions as the spiritual heart, or heart chakra. That's where the word becomes a living frequency. That's where sound turns into real intention, not just noise. When the word is born only from the mind, it carries logic, but it doesn't carry life. It can sound nice, coherent, even smart, but it lacks vibrational power. It's like a well-tuned instrument that's not plugged in. On the outside it looks ready, but inside it's off. The mind organizes the form, but it's the heart that switches on the energy behind it. It's the heart that gives the word the tone of creation, the weight of presence, the vibrational signature that connects it with the universe. The heart is more than an organ that pumps blood. It's a center of energetic intelligence. It holds the largest electromagnetic field of the human body, much bigger than the mind's. It's from there that you feel truth, intuition, love, empathy, trust. And that's why, when your speech comes from that point, it carries a kind of vibration that cuts through layers. It resonates with essence. It reaches others, space, time, and it comes back. It's in the heart that the soul shows up without filters. That's where the chills come from, that nobody can explain. The emotion that chokes your voice, the tear that falls when you hear a truth that feels like it was spoken just for you. Because the heart doesn't speak from the outside in, it speaks from the inside out. And when you speak from the heart, you don't need to shout or convince. The vibration speaks for you. That's why the ancients put so much focus on preparing this center before any sacred practice. They knew that if the heart was closed, hurt, or numb, the word wouldn't find a way through. The word would just be an empty echo, the manifestation, unstable. Because it's not the sound that creates, it's the truth behind the sound. And truth can only rise from an awakened heart. An awakened heart is not a perfect heart. It's a heart that feels, that allows, that recognizes what it's vibrating before throwing words into the world, that stays silent when it's in conflict, that observes when it's in pain, that speaks when it's in presence. Because this center is the bridge between above and below, between heaven and earth. It's where divine inspiration becomes impulse for the material world. When the word passes through the heart, it becomes a fertile seed. Every word becomes a vibration with a clear destination. And that's where creation starts to follow a higher order. Your own essence vibrating in sync with the whole. That's why speaking from the heart isn't about being poetic or sensitive. It's an energetic necessity. It's what separates what just sounds nice from what truly creates. And you don't have to be mystical to feel it. You've probably noticed when someone says something and you feel it's true, even if the words are simple, or when someone says exactly what you wanted to hear, but you can feel there's no soul behind it. That's the heart field speaking. It's what translates the invisible into a vibration that touches. When the heart and the word meet, something aligns. A center wakes up. And it's not just the sound that changes. The whole being falls into coherence. In that moment, the word stops being just expression and becomes creation. And it's in this fusion between vibration and truth that something hidden begins to rise. Something the ancients called quintessence. And when that vibration moves through the heart and finds a field ready to receive it, something begins to stir inside. A kind of invisible fire that doesn't burn but purifies. An impulse that doesn't come from the mind or from common emotions. It comes from an older place, a quieter one. A subtle presence that's always been there but few recognize. It's what the initiates called the fifth essence, the fifth element, spirit in its purest state. Earth, air, fire, and water are the elements of matter, the pillars that hold everything we can see, touch, measure. But the fifth element, you can't see it, you can't weigh it, you feel it. It's the breath that gives life to form. The center that unites all the others, the vibration that flows through the four and transforms them into something higher. And unlike the other elements, it doesn't come from outside. It's within. It's in you. This essence is what the ancients aimed to awaken in their most sacred rituals. It wasn't about mastering the outer elements, but about lighting the inner fire. The water of intuition, the air of the mind, the earth of the body, and the fire of will only align when the fifth element, spirit, shows up as awakened consciousness. It's the spirit that unifies, that orders, that sustains. You feel this presence when you're fully present, when time seems to stop, when something inside you recognizes the eternal in the moment, when your actions are no longer reactions, but expressions of something that comes from within, when your speech stops repeating formulas and starts transmitting truth. In that moment, you're vibrating the quintessence. It's in your fingers, in your breath, in the light in your eyes when you speak with soul. It's in your posture when you decide to stop bowing to old stories. It's in the strength of silence when there's no longer a need to prove anything. It shows up as courage, as clarity, as a kind of calm that doesn't depend on circumstances. The ancients drew this power as a five-pointed star, pointing upward. each point representing one element, and the top symbolizing spirit commanding the other four. This star wasn't a symbol of outside worship. It was a reminder that the power of spirit begins when you take mastery over your own internal elements. But this quintessence doesn't activate in the middle of chaos. It doesn't appear in the rush, in automatic speech, in emotions that hijack us. It rises when everything inside you aligns. When the body is grounded, the mind is quiet, the emotion is clean, and the word is alive. From that point on, you no longer react like before. You create, you direct, you shape. It's subtle, but firm. When it awakens, it doesn't shout. It holds. It doesn't impose. It radiates. It's the presence that speaks before the words, the vibration that comes before action. It's the spark that reminds you, deep in your chest, that you didn't come here just to survive, but to manifest. To give form to the invisible that pulses inside you since before you had a name. And maybe you've never heard of it like this before. Maybe you've felt it in moments of extreme clarity, of unexpected peace, of love that didn't depend on anyone. In those moments, you were vibrating the fifth essence. And even if you've forgotten, it never left you. It was just waiting for the moment when you'd stop trying to control the world with your eyes and start feeling it with your soul. The tree of life and the hidden path from the word to reality. And it's exactly when that inner star begins to shine, when the quintessence awakens and the word anchors in the heart, that something even deeper is revealed. Because no true creation happens only on the physical plane. Everything you want to experience first has to go through an invisible path, a route that can't be seen with the eyes, but can be felt and traveled with awakened awareness. And the ancients knew exactly how that path worked. In the Kabbalistic tradition, this journey is represented by a sacred map, the tree of life. More than a mystical symbol, it's a precise representation of the journey of energy, from the higher planes of existence to the densest point of physical reality. Each sphere on the tree, each path between them, represents a step in that downward movement. For the word to manifest, it needs to follow this path. It has to be born as an idea, transform into emotion, gain mental form, find vibrational expression, until, finally, it becomes material. But that path isn't automatic. It requires pure intention. It requires that the word, as it leaves you, is connected to an inner structure that can support it. Because the energy that descends through the worlds needs to find a body able to receive it, a mind prepared to integrate it, a heart aligned to guide it. Otherwise, it gets lost along the way. It dissolves before it arrives. And what seemed like a sincere desire never manifests, not because you didn't deserve it, but because the path was interrupted somewhere during the descent. In Kabbalah, this movement of energy is divided into four worlds: the world of emanations, where everything is only essence; the world of creations, where ideas take shape in potential; the world of formations, where structures are drawn in the energetic field; and finally, the world of actions, where matter is manifested. Your word needs to pass through all of these worlds for something to truly be born on the physical plane. And each stage requires a corresponding level of awareness from you. When a word is spoken in a rush, in fear, or in contradiction, it may reach the first worlds, but it can't sustain itself to the end. The desire is born, but it has no form. The form arises, but it has no foundation. And the result is what many people feel, that sensation of always wanting something that never becomes real, because the word went out but didn't complete the journey. That's why the true method of manifestation, the one the alchemists called the inner work, doesn't start on the outside. It begins with alignment between the planes within you. with your ability to be a channel for that energy to follow the same path described by the tree of life, from the invisible to the visible, from spirit to action, from word to result. And this is the point where the alchemical method begins to be revealed. Not as a technique to control reality, but as a process of alignment between what you think, what you feel, what you speak, and what you live. And the more you understand this hidden path that the word travels between the worlds, the more you realize that what really defines what manifests in your life is not what you want or what you repeat with memorized phrases. It's what you sustain with your daily vibration. It's what keeps pulsing inside you even when you're not saying anything. Because the universe doesn't react to what you want. It reacts to what you maintain. You didn't get here by chance. The word never stopped working. It was just waiting for you to be whole enough to carry it, for your soul to be awake enough to guide it, and for your vibration to be clear enough not to distort what came from above. Now, you don't just speak, you anchor, you manifest, not like someone who's trying, but like someone who remembers. And if you've made it this far, don't ignore this sign. Write in the comments, "I am ready to manifest with awareness." This will reinforce your vibration and connect you with other seekers who are awakening along with you. And don't leave yet. A special video has been prepared that will show you the continuation of this path and go even deeper into the alchemical method that's ready to be remembered by you. Just click on the screen. I'll see you there, at the exact point where your reality begins to be written with intention.